I welcome one and all in today's webinar. We gynecologists are over busy these days in webinars that we don't have any time to think in the negative direction. During this COVID era, this is the best way to remain positive. Friends, believe in God, this time will also pass. Today we will discuss on a very important topic, that is on RH incompatibility. Now I invite my chairpersons. I request Dr. Alka Sethi in place of Dr. Sanjay Sharma. She is not able to join. She is Secretary Jhansi. Now my humble request to Dr. Amrita Chaurasia. She is HOD ML and Medical College Allahabad. Kindly be with us as a chairperson. I also request Dr. Bharti Saran, a very dynamic president of Bareilly Obs and Gynae Society. Madam, please join. Dr. Yashodhara Pradeep, HOD RML Hospital, Lucknow, kindly take your seat as speaker on dais. Now I request my very energetic President, Dr. Neelam Mishra. She is President of Kanpur Obs and Gynae Society. She is a renowned laparoscopic surgeon of the town and a very busy and hard-working President who has put all her efforts in every webinar. With all the love and affection, I hand over the mic to you, ma'am, for welcome address and to kindly introduce the speaker, Dr. Yashodhara Pradeep also. Over to you, ma'am, Dr. Neelam Mishra.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran, for kind words. Dear friends, welcome to today's webinar on RH immunization. It is a privilege of the Kanpur Obs and Gynae Society to organize webinar with the Allahabad, Bareilly and Jhansi Society. Friends, not all patients suffer from RH incompatibility. The incidence is about 8 to 10%, but early diagnosis, obstetric management, planning delivery, and neonatal management brings healthy baby and a happy mother. I feel great honor to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Yashodhara Pradeep, who doesn't require any introduction, a wonderful academician, and she's teacher of teachers. I will like to give her some of the important achievements. She got the best teacher award from KGMU Lucknow, and she's a winner of best paper award of AICOG 2014. She's president of Lucknow Obs and Gynae Society. She got a Foxy President Award in 2019, and she's vice president of IMA AMS 2018 to 2019. She has a teaching and training experience of 35 years, and she is associate editor of JMH Journal. Besides that, so many things she's a national and state coordinator of RMCHA, EMOG, BMOC, and many others. And this time she's contesting for the precious Vice President Foxy from North Zone. So friends, kindly support full-heartedly. Besides this, we have got a galaxy of esteemed panelists. Dr. Amrita Chaurasia, she's the head of department of Allahabad Medical College. Welcome, Amrita. Our next is the Dr. Bharti Saran. She is a president of Bareilly Obs and Gynae Society. Because of some problem, Dr. Sanjay Sharma could not join. There was some audit is going on of health secretary, so she could not join. So, Dr. Alka, you have come. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to this webinar.
Thank you,
I'll request Dr. Pradeep. You are very, very tired. Sorry, madam, but please, dais is yours and start your lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Neelam. Thank you, Dr. Neelam. At the outset, I would like to thank you, Dr. Neelam, Dr. Kiran, Dr. Sanjay, Dr. Amrita, for giving me the opportunity to share the virtual platform from the Jhansi Society, Bareilly Society, and the Kanpur Society. Dr. Bharti Saran, I could not see Dr. Bharti Saran. Where is she?
She's there. She's there.
She's there, but it is not. Her video is off, probably.
No. She's visible.
Oh, okay. I could not see you on this thing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Bharti, Dr. Amrita, Dr. Sanjay, and Dr. Alka, Dr. Neelam, and Dr. Kiran for giving me this opportunity, and the Bharat Serum, who are the organizers of this program. So,
All the best,
and
ma'am.
all the participants, although very less participants at the moment, is only 25 participants are there.
They will
Am
join.
I right, Mr. Savan? Hello?
Madam, we have a
Hello?
different audience portal where more than 150 are currently watching. So please
Okay,
continue.
it shows only 25 audience.
Madam, that is only on the Zoom. That's all.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Session, for inviting me and for organizing this program. It's a very important program of the RH negative mothers, because if everything goes well, the fetus will be well. But if anything goes wrong, which is in the hands of our OBGYN, then we are going to be in trouble. So we are the one who are going to prevent HDFN, that means hemolytic disease of newborn and infant, fetus and newborn. And I'm sorry that I am little late because I just rushed in. I did not even take bath and sitting here. So with this, I'm going to start. As we all know that RH negative is a type of a blood group. And we all understand that if a RH negative woman is going to deliver
Slide is not visible on this.
slides are not visible.
Mhm.
Okay. Share screen. Yes. Now is it visible?
It's not to me, ma'am. हमें तो नहीं दिख रहा. किसी और को?
No, madam, it's not visible. Yeah, it has just
Is it
started.
visible?
Yes, madam.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, ma'am. No, it is. Yeah.
The slides are not moving, I am suppose. From here it will move? Yes. So,
Saranji, can it be full screen?
yeah.
Ye full
Are
screen?
you able to see the screen?
No,
Yes,
it is
yes.
there on the screen, but can it be full screen also?
Yes, of course. Sorry. It's all right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amrita.
Thanks, ma'am.
So it is, first of all, I would like to make my request that I am contesting for the post of Vice President North Zone Foxy. So my humble request to please give your precious vote to me, all the participants and my esteemed chairpersons, president secretaries of the Jhansi, Kanpur and Bareilly societies. And this is the topic which I am going to cover, overview of the RHD immunization in pregnancy. So as I have said that there is a two type of the blood groups, D groups, D types, RH is two types, D positive and D negative. So if the RH is D negative and if this woman delivers a D positive baby who are otherwise exposed to D positive cells are at risk of developing the D antibodies. So the mother is at risk of developing the D antibodies. And D positive fetuses or neonates of these mothers are at risk of developing the HDFN, which we say hemolytic disease of fetus and newborn, which has been associated with serious mortality and morbidity. We all understand once there is a hemolytic disease of fetus occurs, it is very difficult to save the child and you have to go to the very higher center for the management, although it is preventable and as well as treatable also, but you have to need a higher center where these facilities are available. And they are all expensive also. So if the facility is not available in your town or you cannot afford, a couple cannot afford, then it becomes a real problem to a couple, because as the multiple pregnancy occurs, this disease worsens. It is a progressive type of the disease. This does not disappear. So with this, despite the availability and implementation of anti-D prophylaxis, HDFN we still see, not only in India, we see worldwide. So antenatal and postnatal anti-D immunoglobulins prophylaxis significantly reduces the frequency of alloimmunization and associated fetal and neonatal complications. As I've already said, HDFN is treatable and preventable both but you require a dedicated centers and it is an expensive procedure. So it is better to prevent instead of treat. But anyhow, if somebody comes, then it is, you have to give the message that it is treatable, but you have to refer to the higher centers where the facilities are available. So what is rhesus system is? Rhesus system is the pregnant woman can have either Rh positive or Rh negative D antigen. So, but this D antigen is not alone. It has got more than 50 variants of antigens. They could be D, C, small c, E or small e. So this woman who is D negative, but still it can form because there is so many variants are there. It can still form the antibodies against C, capital C, small c, capital E and small e antigen. Whenever it is been exposed to fetal C or fetal C or fetal E or fetal E antigen inherited from the father but is absent from the woman, because the father could be heterozygous. The mother is having only D, but father may be having C or E antigen, which it is going to be transferred to the fetus, and then this will be going to transfer to the mother because woman is not having these antigens. So the woman will get antibodies, and this is going to form the hemolytic disease of newborn. So anti-D prophylaxis will protect her from antigen. D antigen only, mind, there is present of C and E antigen and small c antigen are there. But the antiglobulins which we have at the moment is only against D antigen, not against the C or E antigen or small c antigen. So whenever we are giving the prophylaxis, we can protect only from the D antigen, not from the anti-C alloimmunization. We have to remember this because this is very important. The woman may have received all anti-Ds in her pregnancy, but still she is going to come and the fetus is showing the HDF or HDFN. So 40% are homozygous and rest are heterozygous. So in some cases what happens? The D testing is there, but there is a weak D antigen. So the reaction is less than 2+. Or on adding the anti-human globulin, moderate to strong reaction occurs. So this is known as serologically weak D phenotype. And we all have in our clinical practice have seen that many times the woman is coming with the Rh positive blood group, but somebody has said it is Rh negative. Somebody has said it is Rh negative. So we do not know exactly why this is happening. This is happening because of the weak D antigen. So how to prove that she is Rh negative? We should treat it as Rh positive, Rh negative. The simplest thing is, it is best to test if she cannot get for the higher test, treat her as a Rh negative. That's a better scenario. But it is again costly because she has to receive anti-D. Once we have said that she is Rh negative, we have to give her anti-D prophylaxis, antenatal and postnatal both. So what we can do? So there are more than 200 mutations of this 50 mutations of the D, but there are more than this 200 mutations are there for the antigens are also there. So there is a genotyping of the D antigen which has got 1, 2 or 3 genotypes. These 1, 2, 3 genotypes, if they are present, so if we have any time we are in doubt, we can get 1, 2, 3 genotypes done, testing done. If they are present, we treat her as a D positive, and then no anti-D is required, and no titration and no monitoring of the Rh negative is required, which we do whenever we get a Rh negative mother. So it is going to save all these problems once we know that genotype 1, 2, 3 is present along with the D. If this 1, 2, 3 is absent in the D, it will be treated as Rh negative and anti-D prophylaxis will be needed. So we have to, best part is, if we have got a facility, we should differentiate. The genotyping should be done. If not, so it is a better option to treat her as a negative, not as a G positive. And let me tell you, it is not once. I have got 3 times to a very close people. I have got many, but I can enumerate the 3 cases which are 2 in my family and 1 with my very close friends. who had RH positive fetus, and second time she had some complication when she needed blood because she had abruptio placentae and she was really low and bleeding. And when the blood was tested, then she was RH negative. This time she was diagnosed as RH negative. And you all understand that how difficult it is to get a RH negative blood. One of my nephew who met an accident, although he is no more, but he was tested as positive because all schools now say that you should be admitted. But when he met an accident in Chandigarh, he was diagnosed as RH negative, and not only RH negative, AB negative, which is the rarest of the rare blood group. And you can understand how much problem we have faced, and because of this we even lost. If we would have known that this blood group is this, we would have circulated this idea or this message to, at that time the mobile was just came. It's nearly 20 years back probably. The mobiles, or 20 or 22 years back, the mobile have just arrived and we could have messaged. But I still, my hats off to Chandigarh Blood Bank. As soon as they came to know, they have got a very strong associations, all schools, everybody, and they have given us the 10 units of the AB negative blood, but he needed much more than that, and so we could not do anything. And plus there's some problem in the diagnosis. As you know, all hospitals, CT scan is not working, MRIs are not working, you cannot take the patient to the private, so much. It's very, very sad story, which my brother had an only child, which we have lost. So anyhow, so it is very important to know, is a RH negative or RH positive. My only point of assessment was this: whenever there is a dilemma, it has to be tested, that it has to be treated as RH negative because it is better option than to be a RH negative. So laboratories, the presence of both D and C antigen in the fetus and absence in the woman will be alloimmunized with the D and C antigen. So if there is in the fetus both are present, the mother will be alloimmunized with D and C both. But we have got a prophylaxis only with the D antigen, not with the C antigen. So we have to test if this woman comes in the second pregnancy and it shows that hemolytic disease in the fetus, we have to test whether this antibody, because maybe the NTD is given is not of the actual amount what she needed, or it was not given in the right time, or it was something fake or something was there. So we have to test whether these antibodies are against D or C antiglobulins. If it is against C antibodies, we can still give anti-D, because in the next pregnancy she can form against the D antigen. So it is also important to know whether she is C or D antigen is there. All indications for anti-D prophylaxis are all non-alloimmunized. Mind the word non-alloimmunized women can be given a D antigen whenever anti-D, antenatally at 28 weeks. It is a grade 1A evidence. Weak D antigen genotype 1, 2, 3 is not found because we are going to treat her as RH negative. Alloimmunization with anti-C, because D is still, she is not sensitized to the D, so you can still give anti-D at the time antenatal and after the postpartum. Any procedure in D negative pregnant women is also a grade 1B evidence. And I'm just going to show you the list of the procedures which a woman can go through. The post-delivery of D negative fetus, dose is 300 milligram within 72 hours. It is again a grade 1A evidence, but it can be given up to 28 days. Because there's some possibility is that she will be not given the 100%, but she will have enough of this that the antibodies will be less. So it is not going to affect the fetus. So it will give at least partial protection. Post-sterilization for the protection of mother. Because otherwise, if this woman gets a vasectomy, recanalization, or she gets a blood in her lifetime, again there will be going to be a problem. So post-sterilization is a debatable, because now it is coming in the government. But when it was not coming in the government, it was expensive. People used to say, no, I do not want any more pregnancy. I will not get it done. So, but ideally it should be given. Women undergoing intraoperative cell salvage, dose is calculated based on the Hull test. So this is because nowadays we are reducing our blood transfusion from outside. We all are saying it should be the self IUS should be done, and we should give the intraoperative blood of the same person. But here the maternal blood which have collected will also have the antibodies, the fetal antibodies. So what we can do, we can transfuse that blood, but we can do at the same time the test and see how many fetal cells are there, and we can give accordingly the NTD, how much it is required. So these are the events in which you have to give delivery. We all know: induced abortion, yes; spontaneous abortion, yes; ectopic pregnancy, yes; partial molar pregnancy; chorionic villus sampling; chordocentesis; percutaneous fetal procedures, fetoscopy or chordocentesis; amniocentesis, yes; external cephalic version, yes; abruptio placentae, yes; antenatal hemorrhage; maternal abdominal trauma like motor vehicle accident, because you are not sure whether she had accidental hemorrhage or she did not had, because all accidental hemorrhage cannot be diagnosed immediately. So it is better if the mother had any maternal trauma, and you should give NTD if she is RH negative, and manual removal of placenta. Feto-maternal hemorrhages, because it could be idiopathic also. So you have, whenever the woman is on the anticoagulant, so it could be the feto-maternal hemorrhages are occurring, which you are not going to see them. So if she is on any of the anticoagulant or something, again you have to give it. What is the pathogenesis? It is the fetal IVC get the D expression as early as 38 days of the conception. So maternal alloimmunization occurs as a result of exposure to D positive IVC to the maternal immune system as early as 38 days. But it is not, the amount is less. So these antibodies are not going to affect the fetus. Or it is IgG, and mind the word IgG antibody only cross the placenta and opsonize fetal IVC, not the IgM antibodies. It is only IgG antibodies are going to cross the placenta. So what are the events which cause the maternal alloimmunization? Again, the same table I am going to say, but before that I am going to say that transplacental feto-maternal bleeding during the pregnancy can result into the alloimmunization, or injection needles contaminated with the D positive blood. This is very important. Nowadays we are using the disposable syringes and disposable needles. That's very good, because the chance of getting the these needles exchanged, with which we were doing in the older days, is the one should be very, very careful, because this amount of the blood can also cause this. And inadvertent transfusion of D positive blood. Sometimes it has been said that instead of long this thing, she's been given a D positive blood. Demismatched allogenic hemopoietic system cell transplantation, because sometime in the aplastic anemia or somewhere you do whatever the matches are available, and the HLA antigen, if there is a criteria, if those are available, so even they do with the D positive. If somebody is been requesting, no, you do whatever you can do, so even it can be done. So you have to have a history of it, that this person has not had any hemopoietic transplantation in their childhood or in their adulthood. So this is the same list which I have just said, that these are the events in which the transplacental alloimmunization can occur, because the feto-maternal hemorrhage can occur in the delivery, induced abortion, spontaneous abortion, ectopic pregnancy, partial molar pregnancy, chorionic villus sampling, chordocentesis, percutaneous fetal procedures, amniocentesis, external cephalic version, abruptio placenta, antenatal hemorrhage, maternal abdominal trauma, because you are not always able to visualize how much feto-maternal hemorrhage has occurred, and manual removal of the placenta. This I have just repeated because a few of the participants, they add late. So what are the factors which affect the alloimmunization? One is the volume of the fetal blood in the mother circulation. We all know that. The frequency of the feto-maternal bleeding, because we see that sometimes there is a woman who is bleeding again and again, especially in the cases of placenta accreta and placenta previa. ABO incompatibility of the mother and fetus, because it is not the D incompatibility, the fetus can, the mother and fetus can also have a ABO incompatibility. the immunogenicity of the fetal RBC and immunogenic response to the mother. Because if the mother is having some disease in which her immune system is not working well, like HIV, the antibodies will not form because the mother is not having the good immune status. Like the AIDS patient may not form the allo antibodies to the D antigen. Similarly, the severity of the fetal anemia depends on many factors of the maternal antibodies, because these maternal antibodies are how strong these antibodies are. What is the quantity of this? So sometimes you see how much is the titer, because if the titer is less, antibodies are present. So just presence of antibodies does not mean that this fetus is going to have the disease of hemolytic disease of newborn. So we have to keep under observation and see how this titer is progressing. So this is the prevalence of the D negative. Rightly, Dr. Neelam Mishra has said that it is prevalent in 5 to 8% of the patients, but in the Basque's population it is 30 to 35%. But in the Indians it is only 5 to 8% population is suffering with the D negative. So God has saved our population. Screening is being done by the indirect Coombs test, and it is used universally. Everybody use the same test, indirect Coombs test, for the monitoring of the Rh negative women. There is another test which is in the pipeline. This is gel microcolumn assay. This does not have the variation as this indirect Coombs test has got a lot of variation because it is an agglutination test. This test does not have a variation, but it gives a little high value. So whatever the value will be given by the indirect Coombs test, it will give at least 10% higher value to this. So still it is been assessed whether it should be given to the population or it should not be run in the population. So it's still under the consideration. There is another test is an automated enzymatic method, but it is not recommended because of the certain problems. At the moment it is not recommended. Maybe in the future we may get all these 3 tests to our women who can be monitored by these 3 tests. So diagnosis of the alloimmunization is being made by the depends on the detection of the anti-D antibody in the maternal blood. We all know we do the titer indirect Coombs test and we see the antibodies are present. We say that alloimmunization is present. But detection of allo antibodies, as I just said, it does not mean that all the fetuses are going to suffer with HDFN, because it will depend upon not at the same time. As soon as you detect the antibody, it will depend upon how the titers are rising and how much is the situation is going on. So ongoing situation is there. One has to be very alert and keep under observation. The false positive can also occur if the woman has received the anti-D immunoglobulins in past few weeks. So women received anti-D at 28 weeks. The titer will be less than 4 at term. So this is the amount of the titer will say whether she is being alloimmunized or she is not, whether she is false positive or she is a real positive case. High titer suggests allo anti-D and new anti-D will be IgM antibodies. So the old antibodies will have IgG, but this which we have given will have IgM, and this IgM is not going to cross the placenta. So it is not going to be whatever antenatal you have given. Your test is going to be positive, but the titer is going to be less than 4. But this is going to be IgM antibodies and it is not going to cross the placenta. Only exogenous anti-D is IgG, which crosses the placenta and makes the fetus of the fetus can develop the hemolytic disease. So what is the management? We have to determine fetal D type, and then again whether it is a weak or it is a strong, again we have to keep an eye. Whenever there is a dilemma occurs, we have to take her as if we cannot test the genotype of 1, 2, 3. We take it as a D negative. That's a better choice. Monitoring of the fetal anemia if the fetus is D positive. How to know the fetus is D positive and how to know the fetus is D negative? There are only 2 tests are there, that is NFT, CFT, that is a Safeway DNA test, or we also know NIPT. It can be done, which can diagnose the fetal blood group, although it is an expensive test. But see that it is all relative. Any woman who is had 2 or 3, she her first, because all the places our woman is not getting the good obstetric care, and first time she is being delivered in PSU somewhere, she was not given the NTD and the baby has also died, and she has developed the antibody, by the time she reaches to the higher centers or the more knowledgeable or more skilled OBGYN, she is already D positive. So what to do in these cases? So we can know, because titering and all these things also expensive, but to give her assurance that this child is going to be good and she can afford, maybe she can afford, because all the women who are delivering at the PSC and periphery, we should not think that they are poor. They can afford, but because every person nowadays, the mindset has changed. People want the hospital next to their door. They do not choose. They, for buying the clothes, they will go to any extent, any malls. But for getting the good doctor, they would not like to move. They want that it should be only next door, and they would like to get delivered unless they get a bad experience. So amniocentesis is the second, because this is an invasive procedure. So this can also be choice if she can afford, whether this baby is RH positive or RH negative. If negative, all problems is being solved and there's no problem. And PCR can be done for the paternal RHD genes, reveals it is a homozygous or the heterozygous. If the father is homozygous negative, again the problem is solved, because we know the fetus is going to be RH negative. A third thing is NTD titer. We, as I said, indirect Coombs test, and we do NTD titer. And peak systolic velocity in the middle cerebral artery is the another way to see that this fetus is developing the anemia or this fetus is not developing the anemia. If any time we know that fetus has developed severe anemia, we have to deliver. We have no other choice except we can give a lung maturity if it is less than 34 weeks. But if it is remote from the term, like 24, 26 or 28 weeks, we give intrauterine fetal transfusions. As I said, it requires a higher center, it requires a dedicated person who can do this, and the center should be. And everybody cannot develop this center, because the demand should be there. Unless the demand is not going to be there, why anybody is going to develop the center? So the monitoring in the clinical scenario is, we do as soon as we know that a woman is RH negative, we like to do a baseline NTD titer, and then we do it at 22 weeks and 24 weeks, 20 weeks onwards we start doing. A non-invasive, another test is a ultrasonography, and we do a peak systolic velocity of the middle cerebral artery every 2 weekly. In case of rising titer, this peak systolic velocity of the middle cerebral artery can be done even weekly. It all depends, it is a relative terms, how much is a gestational age and how much is a titer and how much is the reading of MCA PSV. So it can be done weekly or earlier for monitoring the fetal anemia, because as I said, all the places there is a intrauterine transfusion is not available. So we see that if we can take this baby to some extent where this can be delivered, and after lung maturity and an ICU facilities are good, or the outside the blood exchange facility to this fetus is good, we sometimes, if we do not have the higher centers, sometimes we succumb to those options which are only available to us. So any MCA PSV, if it is less than 1.5 moms for the gestational age, is consistent with the moderate to severe anemia. So if we are getting it is less than 1.5, we know that it is not going to be severe anemia, it is going to be moderate to severe anemia. Once it is 1.5, we know it is going to be severe anemia. And then we have got no other choice to deliver or give intrauterine transfusions. Invasive method is the chordocentesis. So it is a NTD titer you can do, the USG MCA PSV you can do, or the chordocentesis can also be done to know the exact released test also we used to do in the amniotic fluid and also in the fetal blood to see whether what is the optical density and how much it is. Although this is almost now obsolete, nobody does this. Only it is being done when you are going to do a intrauterine transfusions. So because at the same time you can do a chordocentesis and confirm all these findings and transfuse. So chordocentesis for fetal hemocritic or hemoglobin and confirmation of the blood should be performed. So at the same time you do it. there's a lot of meta-analysis is being done by the 12 studies is been taken in the meta-analysis, and 696 fetuses is being taken from 2008 to 2018. Is a 10 years it has been long study, and they say that if the PSV MCV is more than 1.5, it has got the fetus is suffering with a severe anemia, and the sensitivity is 86% and the specificity is 71%. And there's so many more cases are also there, but I've quoted just because of the lack of time. I've quoted only one study, and it predicts moderate to severe anemia in non-transfused fetus. Mind the word non-transfused, because you have to take the history that this woman is not coming after the transfusion, but many times it happens. The woman had the intrauterine transfusion at some other place, but she cannot stay there, or whatever the problem, she comes to you. So unless you take in your history that she has been there or not, you maybe sometimes you may not get a clear picture also. So the fetal anemia, there's another test by which you can also know the fetal anemia. It's a when you are measuring the MCA, you have to do angle correction, and when the angle correction is being done and you see that your MCA is 1.8 times of the fetal biometry, that means if the fetal growth is 33 weeks as in this, and your MC velocity is 41.36, that means it is less than 1.8 times of the fetal biometry. This also shows the fetus is suffering with the severe anemia. So there are two tests. Once we know that it depends upon whether the fetus is a first pregnancy which is affected pregnancy, or it is a second pregnancy which is a affected pregnancy. If the monitoring we are doing in a previous child who has been affected, then we start the monitoring at more than 18 weeks, because we know that we have to take this to at least 28 weeks to get the healthy baby to the live fetus, not the healthy but a live fetus to the mother. If previous child is not affected, we can start if more than 22 weeks or 24 weeks. So it is the difference if this woman is being already aluminized and she had the affected fetus, not only the aluminized, it is she had the affected fetus, or she did not have the affected fetus. If the titers are high, more than 1:256, earlier monitoring by the USG is required. So high titers again say that earlier monitoring should be required in the cases of affected fetus. And this I must tell you that these titers are not only measuring the one unit, they may also be measuring the many other units. Just because KEL is been very familiar to us, so there's some labs are doing the monitoring of this with the KEL units. So KEL unit is much less in comparison to the international unit, which we are getting the reports most of the time. But because now the movement is so much, because of the COVID-19, the lockdown, we are not having that. But otherwise, a pregnant woman is traveling from any state to any state, and it depends that which state is having what kind of the facility. They get all those investigations done, and labs are also having different kind of the monitoring. We all have seen, and sometimes we have to just keep on searching that what I know and what she has got the reports. So we have to sometimes correlate also. So the titers for the KEL unit more than 4 is the monitoring by the fetal MCA PSV from 18 weeks. So for the international unit is 256, but for the KEL it is more than 4 is indication. The fetal MCA PSV should be done from the 18 weeks onwards. Other more than 16 for monitoring by fetal MCA PSV from, if it is in titers which is more than 16, KEL is 14, but which we get, if it is more than 16, we start fetal MCA monitoring from the 28 weeks onwards. So this is indirect Coombs test, fetus is affected. We start monitoring from 18, after the baseline, we start monitoring from 18 weeks. If not, it is more than 22 weeks. If the titers are very high, we start monitoring as it is anytime. But if the KEL titers are more than 4, we start monitoring from 18, and for the international units, we say it is more than 16, we start monitoring by 28 weeks. What is a critical titer? So critical titer, I said before also, it is 1:16 to 1:32. So it depends upon your experience. You can take 1:16 as a perfect thing. and titer should be repeated for every 3 to 4 weeks. Normally, when it is not present or it is present, you have to repeat the titer. But if in case it is rising, suppose you have done a baseline titer, it was negative. You have done after 4 weeks and you find that it should not be rising, it should be 1:8. So that's a little more. So here you would like, because you know the 16 is a critical level, so you would like to monitor every 2 weeks and see that it remains at 8 or remains at 10. The second thing, it should be done from the same lab, because if you are changing the lab, the values are also changing. So critical titer, the fetus at risk of developing severe anemia and hydrops fetalis is 16 to 32, and below critical titer, fetus may develop mild to moderate anemia. So we have to know the critical titer, because this critical titer is going to say whether our fetus is exposed for the moderate to severe anemia only by titer, and MCA PSV is another point. So neonate, if this neonate who can develop hemolytic disease of fetus or newborn, it remains normal because of the recent intrauterine transfusions. So we have to see that this baby who is being born just now, if her hematocrit is normal, again we have to see when the last intrauterine transfusions is being done, because it will not need exchange transfusion just now, because of intrauterine transfusions, the baby's hematocrit is almost normal. But top-up transfusion at 1 month may be needed. So again we have to know whether this woman had the history of intrauterine transfusions or she did not have the history of intrauterine transfusions, because at the birth the baby will be normal, you will be discharging after 5 days, but within 1 month the baby is going to develop this disease. So we have to test again and see that this we have to then say that you should remain this baby in the follow-up who is being born after the intrauterine transfusions with the pediatrician and obstetrician both, or the only an ICU people, or best is now the specialists are coming, so it could be immunized specialist and transfusion specialist also. So it takes some time to begin reticulocytes and disappear the maternal antibodies from the fetal blood. So it is at 1 month, it is a critical month in which the baby may need, because these antibodies have still not disappeared. Most but not all DA immunization can be prevented by NTD. Because the woman exposed to high risk of being exposed to D positive RBC. So all cannot be, because we have given the DA immunization, but we have not tested how much to give. So if the load is much, then again this cannot be prevented, and despite giving the NTD, the woman may have the next pregnancy in which the fetus may be suffering with hemolytic disease. Once immunization has occurred, NTD is no more effective. So as soon as the NTD is positive, your titer is positive, there is no role of giving the NTD. It is only till the titers are negative. But those who have got NTD and those who have had several pregnancies and they could not get a live fetus, so how to help these women? Because we still get these kind of the women who had lost, because first child, as I said, is being born somewhere in the periphery because of the unskilled people. It could not survive and NTD was not given, or it was less it was given, or not in the time it was given. And this second pregnancy she develops, she comes to you. So these, how to get, you may, because it is not only the D, it is maybe she is developing any other complication also, like hypertensive disease of pregnancy, or she is developing GDM, or many other diseases. She may be a case of SLE. She may have any other medical disorder, but because of that also this fetus is not growing well or something is happening. So in this case, the options are, in the case the fetal anemia is there, intrauterine transfusions is one. If she cannot have this, or the facilities are not available, the pregnancy by insemination with the sperm from the D negative donor is the second option. IVF and PGD testing for selection of RHD negative embryo is the third option, and gestational carrier is the last option. So there are 3 options are there. So best is intrauterine transfusions, because by this we can, because depending upon the severity, sometimes you require 2 weekly, sometimes you require weekly, sometimes you require after 4 weeks. So if you have given at 24 or 26 weeks, at 30 weeks the baby reaches, and another 34 weeks, the survival of the baby is good. So but if it is not there, then the second option, insemination, is also a option. IVF and PGD, yes, it is available now, but at all places it is available. I am not aware of it. And gestational carrier is again not very easy to get. So now I want to conclude my talk with the saying that rhesus system consists of D, E and E, C, C and G antigen, and include partial or weak D antigen. D antigen may be present but not expressed. So all situations could be there. We have to keep a track that what is the problem in this woman. Maternal de-alloimmunization occurs due to exposure of D positive RBCs in the fetus, or the mother has transfused, or the mother has contaminated blood, or mother had some exposures, some procedures during her pregnancy. The diagnosis of alloimmunization by detection of anti-D or antibody in the maternal serum is how you have to monitor and detect and make a diagnosis. At first prenatal visit, D-typing and antibody screen to all Rh negative women is must. If negative, repeat at 20 weeks, 28 weeks and so on. Again, if a previous child is not affected and previous child is affected, depending upon that. And if it is negative, we have to give the anti-D at this time. So in presence of discrepant and D antigen, the patient should undergo Rh-D genotyping. As I said, D types 1, 2, 3. If it is negative, not present, it should be treated as negative. If there is a clinical dilemma and we cannot have, it should be treated as negative. The monitoring for alloimmunization by antibody titer, middle cerebral artery systolic velocity, to see that fetus is fine and fetus is not developing the anemia. Ensure anti-D prophylaxis in all cases because it can prevent HDFN and it is a very cost effective. The woman can be saved for all. So we should be very, very careful and give anti-D prophylaxis after doing all the procedure because it is not that expensive than this. Because we are not sure, this skill test is not available and we are not able to do so. We are not sure that how much during the procedure the feto-maternal hemorrhage has occurred. In case of alloimmunized women with BOH, optimum options to get the healthy baby is intrauterine inseminations with Rh negative donor, IVF, PGD, or the intrauterine transfusions and the gestational carrier. Thank you, Meeraji, Kanpur mein, because I am here. So I just cannot go away without thanking Meeraji, respectable, and our secretary, Dr. Kiran Sinha, President, Dr. Neelam Mishra. Sanjaya could not come. She is my friend, Dean and HOD of the Maharani Lakshmibai Medical College. Dr. Alka, now I am going to thank you because I was not aware that Sanjay is not coming. Dr. Sanjay is not coming, Dr. Alka. So my special thanks to Dr. Sanjay, to Dr. Alka, who has taken the chair. Dr. Amrita, HOD from the Motilal Nehru Medical College. Dr. Bharti Saran from Bareilly. Kiran is my senior, so whenever I am in the Kanpur, I just cannot ignore Kiranji. So Kiranji is my senior, and I thanks to her and to all the participants. You are all for giving me the opportunity to share with the audience, and audience, my thanks to all the audience because they are giving their valuable time to listen to me, and I could make my request to them that please give your precious vote to me. And thank you, Bharat Bridge. The spelling is a little long because I have written in the car only. This slide I have made in the car. So thank you to the organizers of Bharat Bridge program. And again, thank you for nominating me from your society for the post of Vice President. Now, 1st September, I am sure that all societies and members must have seen and done that they are A category member. Otherwise, they will not get. If in Dr. Jaideep, the Honorary Secretary, has written that even if you have done last year, even this year you have to go and check your this thing that you are the A category member and all your documents are all right there. So this is an additional thing which Foxy is repeatedly sending to all the society. So again, humble request for your vote and support. Thank you so much. Over to my chairpersons and the
Hello.
president.
Now, Kiranji will moderate the session. Kiranji.
Hello. Thank you, ma'am, for your so valuable and elaborate talk on this RH incompatibility topic.
Thank you,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
mine one
Yashodhara
question
ma'am,
is
thank
that.
you.
Hello,
Yes,
can
ma'am.
you hear?
जी डॉक्टर किरण पूछिए
हाँ.
प्लीज. Yes.
Dr. Amrita.
Ma'am, Dr. Amrita, you can go.
No, I was just saying the audience, if they have any question, they can write it in the chat box so that Dr.
Yeah.
Yashodhara may answer it afterwards.
Yeah. They are coming. They are coming. You'll see. Yes.
Okay.
Chat box में देख
किरण मैम आप पूछिए फिर मैं पूछती हूँ.
लेंगे.
Mine one question is this: कि suppose or most often we see the report as weak RH negative. So then you said कि 1, 2, 3 should be done. And if typing should be done. Is it being done in India? Because we have never ordered for that. 1, 2, 3 is being done here.
So many now the karyotyping is being done. So many genetic labs are there. I am sure they must be doing it. Is not only the demand is not been there, so it is not been coming in the advertisement and publicity.
Yeah.
Because that's not a very difficult thing. Last time somebody has asked, then I went to the hematologist and the pathology people and the blood transfusion people. They said yes, of course it can be done, but because the demand is not there, so they do not say that it has been done. But it's not a very tough thing to know.
Yeah. Because people they allege the pathology lab कि you have done wrongly, wrong blood group, and they start suing कि wrong blood group, anything wrong. Some lab is giving positive, some is negative. So this is it should be, I think it should be done if there is any confusion in such cases. It should be. I think it can be done in the SGPGI fetal genetic department of SGPGI.
Sure, I'll ask. I'm not very sure. I'll ask Dr. Mandakini for this.
This can be done there at least, fetal medicine department.
Yes, I'm sure.
Madam, my query was, do you have experience about getting this NIPT for the fetal blood group in the mother? Do you have any experience regarding that?
Amrita, please.
Ma'am, you mentioned that you can get the fetal blood group by doing NIPT.
Yes.
That is non-invasive kind of procedure. So do you have experience regarding that? Any of the patient you have got it done NIPT for the fetal
I do
blood
not have
grouping?
personal
What is
experience.
the accuracy like?
Accuracy is good because once you get this thing, an IPT report, once you do for any other thing,
Yes.
I have seen sometimes that they are also mentioning the blood group of a fetus.
Because if the accuracy is good, सारा पचड़ा ही खत्म हो जाएगा कि अगर उसमें नेगेटिव आता है fetus.
Yes.
So there is
It's
no
only the
role of
mindset.
repeated monitoring, prophylaxis, and all. But then the accuracy of this NIPT must be like
Yes,
documented.
it has to be because safe DNA
Hmm.
is there. So once you can see the chromosomes, trisomy 21, so there should not be any problem in looking at the this thing fetal blood group. I'm sure about it. So it is only the demand and because many times it happens that you take the things but you are not able to generate the demand, and so many of the tests or even many of the medicines goes out of from the companies. Because I have got experience, because I have started one project and it was freely available, that medicine was, but by the time my project was completing and it came to that intervention of the give this medicine, it disappeared from the market. So I had to ask and call the company, and they have got from all over India all the stock and given it to me. So said, madam, you are the one who is writing. That doesn't mean that everybody is writing. No company is going to work unless they are getting the profit.
That way, ma'am, you are absolutely right. But this NIPT for fetal blood grouping, it needs more conclusive, talks and more conclusive lectures.
There is a question, madam. There is one question from the audience. How many times false positive ICT is reported? Is there
How many
any?
times it is false positive is being repeated?
Yeah.
See, many times you see this. You see that when you are getting your patient and the titers are very high. But when you do a sonography, you do not find this. So it is always sonography, the middle cerebral artery PSV is now more diagnostic than your values. But once you get the critical titer, you have to do it. Otherwise, also nowadays, we are all getting because titers are not, one thing, we are not able to send to a common lab because the patient is coming from the far off. She'll not get it done because she'll not get a report. She'll go back and she'll get it done. Second time she has come, she has got some relative and now she's going to stay. So she'll get it done. And whatever you emphasize, every time the patient compliance is not there. So this ultrasound has come as a boon to us and it is doing much more better job. And you can see the meta-analysis has shown very high sensitivity and specificity. And to know that, because titer does not say that it is a severe anemia, because for that we used to do a release chart. Once the titer was there, to see that what is the optical density and what is the serum bilirubin, to know whether the intrauterine transfusion has to be done or not to be done. But now the same thing is being done by your peak systolic velocity of the middle cerebral artery, and very adequately it says that if it is less than 1.5 mom, the chances of having the severe to moderate anemia in the fetus is less. If it is equal or more than that, 1.5, then the chance is that. So for the gestational age, you have to see what are the options you have been left and at what gestational age you are finding this. So accordingly, you have to deliver.
Okay. So Dr. Kiran Sinha?
Hello, Dr. Bharti Saran, do you want to comment anything? Hello? Is Dr. Bharti there? I think she...
You ask your question. You start your question answer.
A 25-year-old lady, she is third time pregnant with no alive child, abortions 2 times. She came to OPD with amenorrhea of 3 months. All abortions occurred at 2 months of gestation and she had not visited any doctor in previous pregnancies. Her antenatal investigations were done in which blood group came out to be O negative. Dr. Amrita Chaurasia, my question to you, what further investigation should be done in this case? Dr. Amrita, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Kiran. Since we can see the case, she is a case of previous 2 abortions at 2 months gestation age. So she has crossed that 2 months, so the chances of abortion are less. But pertaining to her blood group status, the first and the foremost thing to be done in this patient is to know the blood group of the spouse, blood group of the partner. So the husband's blood group is to be done first. If it comes to be negative, as Dr. Yashodhara Pradeep has said, that if the father is negative, nothing is to be done for the child because the child is going to be negative only. But if the father comes to be positive, then there are chances that the pregnancy, the fetus is having possibility of being either positive or negative. In the case of homozygous, the 100% chance is there that the baby is going to be positive. But if the father's genetic status is heterozygous, there are 50% chances whether the baby might be negative or baby might be positive. तो पहली चीज जो करनी है वो फादर का ब्लड ग्रुप कराना है.
We also ask for the homozygous and heterozygous test of the father also.
It is not available. It is just a theoretical option. Homozygosity or heterozygosity of the father, it is not available in the market. ये खाली थ्योरी है और ये जो पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट्स अटेंड कर रहे हैं या उनके लिए हमने बताया प्रैक्टिकली खाली फादर का ब्लड ग्रुप कराना है.
Thank you, ma'am. Her husband's blood group came out to be A positive. Indirect Coombs test was negative.
Okay.
At 16 weeks of gestation, patient came to labor room with bleeding PV. Dr. Sanjay Sharma, are you there? Hello?
No, she's not there.
Acha,
Kiran ji,
Dr. Amrita, Dr.
Okay, I'll continue.
Dr. Alka Sethi is there.
If
Dr.
she is
Alka,
willing to answer, otherwise I can continue. There's no problem.
now you can, Dr. Alka, I think she has left. You just continue, Dr. Amrita.
Ji. So now the husband's blood group is A positive. The chances are there that the fetus might be A positive or the fetus might be having positive blood group. तो problem वहीं से start हो जाती है, mother negative है और fetus जो है वो positive है. The first and the foremost thing to be done next in the list of investigation is the ICT of the mother. If ICT was negative और patient को कोई problem नहीं होती है, तो we will continue till 28 weeks. But since here you are saying that the patient has started bleeding at 16 weeks of gestation, this is a problem because there are chances of feto-maternal hemorrhage. Yes. So that should not be left, otherwise the mother will be iso-immunized. So at 16 weeks only, if the ICT is negative, you will have to give her prophylaxis NTD, and that is 300 microgram because there is the lesser strengths are not available in the market. So you have to give her 300 microgram of NTD to prevent iso-immunization in the mother. And obviously, you will have to manage her bleeding status also, because what is the cause of bleeding, what is the management line, that is entirely different. Here we are only discussing the RH iso-immunization.
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. Now she was advised NTD at 24 weeks. She again had one episode of antepartum hemorrhage for which she was admitted and blood transfusion was given. Dr. Bharti Saran, I think she has also left.
No.
Dr. Bharti, are you there?
I am here.
Yeah.
Dr. Bharti, she was advised NTD at 24 weeks. She again had one episode of antepartum hemorrhage for which she was admitted and blood transfusion was given. For you, madam, should another dose of NTD should be given or not? We cannot. Please unmute yourself, Dr. Bharti.
Is it okay now?
It's okay now.
We can hear you.
Yes, she should be given another dose of NTD. With every episode, it should be given. But we should also look into the cause of bleeding. If she has a lot of bleeding, she has been given blood, but let us see the cause, investigate her, do a gentle per speculum examination. If the bleeding is anywhere, somewhere from the vagina or cervix, we should differentiate it. If it is from vagina, we need not to. If it is from anywhere from the cervix or uterus, present everywhere, but for any cause, we should treat the cause as well with tranexamic acid or progesterone or whatever is our policy,
Yes.
because of the causes. Then we should further manage and get the NTD and ultrasound monitoring done every 2 weeks till 28 weeks and even further.
Okay.
Madam, here I would like to add one thing. At 24 week also, before giving this repeat prophylaxis, you will have to do her ICT status.
ICT is must.
Yashodhara ma'am, I'm right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course,
Before
but
any
you are-
episode. ICT should be done before that. Before giving NTD every time mentioned.
Every time it should be done. Yes.
Yes. Now, next question is her indirect Coombs test was negative. She received 2 doses of NTD. She is now 40 weeks at gestation. Dr. Amrita, now how will you manage this further?
So ma'am, whoever is the obstetrician, she is the lucky one as well as the patient is lucky one. That in spite of so much of bleeding, we
Doctor is
are
more lucky.
we are successful in keeping her ICT negative. This till now she is a unsensitized pregnancy. She is still not sensitized with the RH antigen, and she has already reached 40 weeks. Now there is an indication to deliver the baby, because beyond 40 weeks you must not continue the pregnancy. The chances of further fetal-maternal hemorrhage will increase after that. Otherwise, other complications will also increase after that. So depending upon whether you want to induce the labor or you want to do it by cesarean section, there is no indication to continue pregnancy beyond 40 weeks if there is RH incompatibility, even if she is ICT negative.
One more thing. Correct.
Is there any cause of the good management and she's been given, done the antibody titer and she's been given NTD because she was negative? she could reach to 40 weeks without sensitization. Yes.
That's what I
very-
said, na? Both the patient and the doctor both are lucky here, lucky enough.
And yes.
Any
One more-
further? Dr. Neelam.
One more thing, Kiranji, I want to tell, during delivery or at the time of seizure,
Yes.
keep in mind early cord clamping, and when we must send baby's blood group, direct Coombs test and serum bilirubin with every RH negative mother.
I was
One
going
thing
to,
more-
I was
one
going
thing
to ask
more,
that
ma'am.
question.
Yeah. During delivery as well as during cesarean, all the precautions must be undertaken to prevent, to reduce the fetal-maternal hemorrhage. Like Madam said, early cord clamping, and before that, there should not be given methyl ergometrin injection because that will increase
Yes.
the chances of fetal-maternal hemorrhage. And unnecessary episiotomies will not be given. And during cesarean section, some people say that packing of the abdomen, the sides of the uterus must be packed so that the blood do not spill in the. But this is controversial. Some favor it and some do not favor it. But it depends upon you. But every precaution must be undertaken to
Let the
reduce the.
placenta separate by itself.
Yes, and let the placenta separate by itself. No manual removal of placenta. Yes.
Yeah. And how many? Hello. बोलिए डॉक्टर.
One more thing, just NTD injection as much as 1500 microgram can be given in 24 hours. If repeated episodes are there, maximum number is 5 in given time. 1500 microgram can be given safely NTD.
24 hours.
After some procedure is done.
If patient is having repeated bleeding, we can give up to 1500 microgram in a given patient.
मैम फ्ली हॉर्सेट बेड के टेस्ट के लिए
Suppose she has again and again bleeding, every week she was having bleeding. In those cases, 1500 microgram can be given in a given time.
in these cases the ideal, the theoretical one is to get the Flea Hauser Betke test. But I asked Mandakini madam also, so I just called her half an hour back. इसी बात को पता करने के लिए कि SGPGI में होता है, because it is not happening at other places also. So that is just a theoretical one that is not being done in SGPGI also. So you can give it in a repeated dose, as Neelam madam said. The maximum permissible is 1500 microgram a day.
Although it is a simple test, it
Only
can
the
be done.
simplest- Yes, but
It has not been practiced. Like lung maturity, we have always learned LS ratio and this and that, but we have never done it. And they are simple tests because our labs are not developed, and one resident in the hospital cannot do everything. So
Ji.
you need people who can do for you. But these
I think this
paraphernalia-
KB test can be done by the pathology people more efficiently.
Yes. So
Yeah.
each OBGYN unit should have 24 hours running a side lab, which one of the time it was the MCI requirement, we had QCR, the clinical rooms. But now that is not there because it is all central. So, and the central place, you just cannot get everything all the time because the person is not available at that time when you need them.
But ma'am, as you said, we can ask our pathology colleagues to start it because this is such a simpler test, but very surprisingly not being done.
Again,
in general
Amrita,
practice.
demand and supply.
Demand
They say
and
I'm
supply.
going to put one person there, and in the 3 months only going to get one test. It is all demand and supply.
I guess ma'am that can be put in the thesis also. तो वो forcibly
Yes.
होता रहेगा. Thesis
हाँ?
में अगर हम residents को ये इसका
हाँ,
topic
वो
दे
डाल
दें,
सकते हैं, वो तो कर
तो
सकते हैं अगर
ये
पास
forcibly होता रहेगा फिर.
MSPG में डाल दें.
बिल्कुल
लोड है,
बिल्कुल. Good
करा
idea.
जा
ma'am.
सकता है. Of course
Yeah.
it can.
Yeah.
पैथोलॉजी में ले जाए और करा के लेके आए.
करा
कराया
के
जाता है.
जी, thank you.
Question now, question.
How many times NTD should be given in recurrent bleeding with pregnancy in case of placenta previa? Dr.
In Bharati sir.
Hello. Hello.
Dr.
Chalo,
Bharti?
Neelam.
Yes.
How many times NTD should be given in recurrent bleeding PV with pregnancy in case of placenta previa?
Yes, it can be. If within 3 weeks it is recurring again and again within 2 to 3 weeks, then
Yeah.
we should give, and before that we should assess the antibiotic titer. If it is required, we should give.
And since half-life of this anti-D is only 21 days, that is 3 weeks. So very rightly
Yeah.
she said that every 3 weeks you may give it, but before every administration you will have to have her antibody titer. If antibody titer is negative, then only administer. If antibody titer is positive, that means that now she has been sensitized.
It's not
So-
negative, it is not more than 4.
Four might be because of that
These are
previous
IgM
dose.
antibodies, it is not IgG antibodies.
Yes. As you said in
That it is because of the because we are giving repetitively this anti-D. So we have to see that antibody titer is not more than 4 or equal to 4, and it is IgM
IgM.
antibodies, not the IgG antibodies.
yes, very right, ma'am.
So, madam, then it should not be repeated before 3 weeks. Suppose if the bleeding episodes comes before 3 weeks, then what to do then?
Because she is already having the half-life, as Dr. Amrita has said.
Yeah. So it is not needed, then repetition is not needed before 3 weeks, you mean to say?
No,
At
but you must do ICT. If she has a repeated bleeding, you must do ICT.
If antibodies are developing, then the scenario changes.
Okay. Thank you.
These antibodies will take care of any fetal blood cell that is entering the maternal circulation within 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, they become ineffective. You'll have to repeat.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Every panelist has so beautifully answered the questions. Is there any question in the chat box?
Yeah, so many questions are there.
Madam, Dr. Neelam, can you take questions?
I'll take. Just a minute. Just a minute.
हाँ, आप देखिए.
जल्दी करो क्वेश्चन. There's a question. There are around 34 questions. 34 questions in the chat box. This 20, how many, 27, how many hours interval we should give increased dose of anti-D? Dr. S. Nithya.
The
And
question
in
is,
APS, can there be possibility of 150 ml of fetal blood to enter into the maternal circulation? Dr. Sukha Joshi.
yes, it is possible.
It is possible.
Because for the 300 ml we give the 150 ml we give 300, but it can be more or less. So we are just thinking it of maximum, and that is how I said if the baby is alloimmunized in the next pregnancy, so one of the causes could be because we have not done the KB test, so it is under. So once we are having a PPH or something, we should think it of that we should give a higher dose. It is better because we are not able to test all the time. So higher dose is a better option. If we think that a woman is bleeding much more, so chances of the fetal-maternal hemorrhage from the placental site will be larger.
Is there any difference in the RH incompatibility and AB incompatibility? Dr. Sandhya Rani.
Yes, there's a difference because RH you do not get the titers in indirect Coombs test positive in the cases of ABO incompatibility. You get only in the cases of NTD.
This ABO is, they are major blood groups, and this RH is a minor blood group. They are entirely different.
Yes.
In one RH negative patient, baby full term RH negative developed jaundice. Why?
Because of hemolytic anemia.
No,
question-
baby is also RH negative. Maybe ABO incompatibility.
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
Yes.
because of the ABO incompatibility.
Or because the
Second-
baby was having some other cytomegalovirus infection or the rubella infection, because they are
Yeah.
prone to develop the
Even
jaundice.
ABO incompatibility this can happen.
Yes.
And very rarely might be having
Or
some.
if the ABO incompatibility is not there, there's certain infections can also lead to jaundice. The thyroid problem and this thing, cytomegalovirus infection, so many things can lead to neonatal jaundice.
And when very rarely some enzyme deficiencies, congenital
Yes,
enzyme
of course,
deficiencies.
very right.
Especially in those cases, the bilirubin rise is very rapid. Very
Yes.
G6PD. G6PD deficiency, I guess.
Yeah,
no?
It's very true. At how many hours interval we should give the increased dose of anti-D? Dr. S. Nithya.
How many?
At how many hours interval we should give the increased dose of NTD?
You have already covered that you can give in 24 hours 1500. So it depends upon your subjective evaluation. Very well, Dr. Neelam has already said that you can give the maximum of 1500 units in 24 hours. So if you are expecting that there is a hemorrhage is more than average, then you can repeat.
The second question is follow-up of ICT positive sensitized till what gestational age MCA Doppler is done? Dr. Shiv Sundari. Follow-up case
ICT
positive sensitized till what gestational age MCA Doppler? I think till the age of
Till you do not get the, either she reaches to 40 weeks
MCA,
or the MCA mom has reached to 1.5.
Yes. When the MCA MOM is more than 1.5 or equal to 1.5, that means now the baby is having anemia, moderate to severe anemia. Now the baby has to be referred to a center with a fetal medicine, and baby has to have a chordocentesis and fetal transfusion. You can follow it till only 1.5 MOM. I guess for a general obstetrician, when the titer is more than that, ma'am, it depends. If the baby is premature, you can have repeated transfusions and make the baby till maturity. But I guess for general obstetrician, once the titer is more than critical, the patient should be referred to a higher center. मैम यशोधरा मैम सही है?
जी बिल्कुल ठीक है. आप
अगर क्रिटिकल टाइटर ज्यादा हो रहा है तो आप अपने पास पेशेंट को हमें लगता है नहीं रखना चाहिए.
नहीं, टाइटर more is not. It is PSV. It is PSV. If the MCA PSV is more, because MCA PSV facility is available everywhere. If your MCA PSV facility is increasing and it is approaching near to 1.5 mom,
so depending, yes.
And you see how it is. If it is reaching to the fast growing, then it is better, and see that baby is not being less than 34. If baby is more than 34 weeks, probably would like to deliver instead of sending anywhere else. But if it is less than 34 weeks, then probably you have to, because you have to a little long way to go, and depending upon her obstetric history also, how much she had. So it is the PSV is the most better guide than anything else, I suppose.
Yes. So the message is, if the titer is more than 1:16, get her MCA PSV till it is less than 1.5. Keep the patient to your side, otherwise refer the patient. And if terminate it.
Yes.
35 से ज़्यादा terminate.
67 questions. So many.
Oh my God. Must be repeated same questions.
Around more than 2000 they are saying login 2024 login.
Madam Dr. Yashodhara, this is your strength. Now you are elected as Vice President.
So I wish, and I make a humble request to all 2025. So sorry that I could not come to your city, your place to ask for this vote. So this is the only platform left by which I can contact you. So thank you so much.
Madam, that's why I told I will join 3-4 society. That will be much better.
Thank you. Okay. Probably they are doing pan India.
Madam,
they're doing pan India.
Madam, I am fond of your simplicity. I love you from my heart. This much I can say.
I have just rushed from the hospital and sitting here without.
And madam is very dedicated as well as very hard.
Yeah, bilkul.
Because
Amrita, you are going to take her place in future. Don't worry.
Yes, I want young generation is going to come forward and
there is no comparison.
Going to be much better because they have got the facility which we did not had.
Yeah, madam.
One very interesting question, Dr. Yashodhara. There is not much price difference between 50 microgram and 300 microgram. Why can't we give 300 microgram to every patient? Dr. Sarojini Swami.
There is not much difference.
between the price, so why not to give 300 microgram to every patient? But there is a dose. We can give 150 instead of 50, but not 300, I suppose.
But there's hardly we get in the market. 150 sometime we get. Otherwise, we are not getting anything.
Availability is a problem with 150. It is
I
not
remember
available.
it was launched 50, 100, 150 and 300.
Yeah.
What we are getting in the market,
Only
150 is
300.
also not freely available. It is 300 which is freely available everywhere.
Yes.
So,
So
we,
that is what she's asking. You can give 300 or not?
yeah, we are giving 300. Practically, we are giving 300.
Every time, even in first trimester.
Because it is not, I said, na, company doesn't produce unless there is a demand. I have seen many times.
Dr. Bharti, any question, Dr. Bharti?
No. Madam has explained so well everything. So naturally cannot have a question.
Finish, Dr. Neelam.
Wish you good. Wish you all the best, ma'am. And certainly
you.
we'll celebrate after.
Thank you so much.
Results are
God
declared.
bless you. God bless you.
All the best, ma'am.
God bless you.
I am thankful to all the chairpersons who have kindly accepted our invitation and participated very nicely in the webinar. Dr. Yashoda Pradeep, ma'am, you are a wonderful orator as always, and believe that everyone must have been benefited by your talk. I am also thankful to all the participants who have spared their valuable time for this webinar. At last, I am thankful to the Bharat Serum Vaccines Limited for providing all the technical support. Thank you, madam. We are really much grateful, and we have learned a lot from your talk.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Dr.
Thank
Neelam,
you.
Dr. Kiran, Dr. Amrita, Bharti, Alka, where you have disappeared, I could not see you much, and Sanjaya could not join. She is my best friend, but
Thank you, Dr. Bharti.
busy
Thank
because
you.
she is a dean, so she is much busy.